Okay, Mr. Melendrez, I know that you were a longtime Riverside resident. Were you born and lived here all your life in Riverside?
Yes, I was born in here in Riverside, way back in 1924. I lived there all my life till I went into the service.
And when was that? When did you go to the service?
It was I went to for my exam in November of '42, and then I had to report it in February of '43.
Where were you? Where did you report? Where was your basic training or boot camp?
Well, I had to go to Camp Anza first, and that's where we spent our first few, took 1 or 2 weeks, I forgot how long it was, where they gave us all our, not the weapons, but they gave us our shots, they gave us our haircut, and then they gave us our uniforms. And it was, that was all, at that time, that's all it was, I think, just a place where they would send people, over the, not over the country, and just all over the country, but not overseas. And but we spent maybe 1 or 2 weeks there before we got ready we had all our stuff ready to go to different states for different bases.
Tell us about your experience in getting your uniforms and any shots or haircuts that you may have gotten.
Yeah, people when you get there, you'll get only civilian clothes, and like me, I had long hair. It's as much hair as I ever had. My longer hair and top tail had zoos and everything. And when we came out of this barber shop, we were all no hair, and then later on we went to get our uniforms. We didn't get our shots first. We got our shots, one in each, a couple of shots in each arm, and then some of the guys were fainting, actually fainting, going down. Well, they saw the big needles, and I said, well, there's going to be a square needle over there waiting for you. And they were faint, and anyway, we were laughing, but those shots were hurt. Some of those shots were hurt. And later on, we got, after that was over, we went over and got our uniforms. That's when we had all kinds of, well, the uniforms, in the first place, the uniforms didn't fit us just right. The shoes were maybe 2 sizes too big. The guys, they would ask you, what size do you wear, just for the heck of it? You'd ask, what size do you wear? I said, well, I wear an 8. Oh, here's a 10. But, it's, anyway, when we got outside, we had, we changed our clothes and everything, from civilian to the uniforms. We were all wrinkled and full of tags, green tags. And we tried to look for our friends, and we couldn't find our friends. Everybody looked the same. Yeah, and oh man, that was so funny. But then we had fun. We didn't know what we were getting into. We were having a lot of fun doing that stuff. But it was a lot of fun.
So from there, where did you go to get your training? Where was boot camp, for example?
Well, basic training, we used to call it in the Army, basic training. Well, we took the train from there, from Camp Anza, we took the train. We were dropping guys off in different places, different states. It took us 5 days. I dropped me off in Missouri, so it took me 5 days to get to Missouri. And the train still kept going to different other states to drop off more kids. But it took me 5 days to get there. Then we started, we were there maybe a couple of weeks to get all the people, because that was a new division. They were just starting up the division. So they got all the whole division in. Then they started getting people from Iceland to come and train us. The regular soldiers come and train us. So they trained us there for 3 months. I went from 150 pounds to 125 during my basic training. It was hard. It was hard. But
what was your age at that time?
18. I was 18 and a half. Yeah, and but we were kids, we were tired, but next morning we were ready to go. Especially reveille in the morning. We got 5 o'clock every morning. Anyway, let me tell you what we did. At first, for our training, when we started our training, we would have get to know our weapons. Like I was in the heavy weapons company, because they have different companies, heavy weapons, and rifle companies. And with heavy weapons, we had heavy weapon machine gun, the Barnacle machine gun, and the other companies, like the rifle companies, they had the other machine guns, the air cooled, where they could carry, and you know. But we had the heavy weapons company had 3 platoons. One platoon was the mortars, you know, like they had the shell, like artillery shell. They drop it in the tube. They had we had one platoon of those. And then we had 2 machine gun platoons. And I was in one of the machine gun platoons, at heavy weapons platoons.
So was Missouri the only training location that you went to?
Yeah, so we got all the training. We got to know the weapons, got all the weapons that we were going to use. But every weapon, the infantry used it. The rifles, bazookas, pistols, the machine guns, and every weapon. So when you're in combat, you can take over and know everything. But when you're there, everybody gets. You go to the rifle range or the machine gun range, and you qualify for different things, you know. If you're good at the rifle, you stay as a rifleman. It's an ammunition carrier, they used to call them. We used to have, I think it was 7 or 8 people in our squad. They had to carry ammunition for the machine gun and the rifle. They would carry a box of the belt of bullets for the machine gun, and the rifle. And the rifle, the machine gun guy would carry the machine gun, and I qualified better for the machine gun than I did for the rifle. So I was a gunner. There was a gunner, and they had the second gunner, which was the one that carried the tripod for the machine gun. So we would set it up and snap the machine gun on there and put the belt on firing. But we learned all of that, but we had to learn all the nomenclature of all the weapons, how to take them apart in the dark, and all that stuff.
How long was your training, and then where did you go after that?
With training for the basic training lasted 3 months. 3 months, and we had the same place. We had the same where we had the basic training. We had the advanced training, where they would pit one regiment against the other, and then you'd be out there for 2 weeks, you know, away from the camp. Up in the I was in Fort Leonard Wood, up in Missouri, up in the Ozarks. There were nothing but hills and forests and everything. It was hard training because we were all hills, and it was during that time it was summertime, and it was hot and humid, and we had good training. Like I say, we stayed there a couple of weeks, matching us against the other regiment, and then after that, we used to go on bivouac too. Like during the training, we had to learn how to read the compass. For instance, they would send this squad here and this squad over here and this squad over there, and 2 or 3 miles apart. And they give them an azimuth, and you have to end up at the same place. And it was in the night, so you had to be where you're going, where you stepped. And a lot of guys would go down, and it was in the woods, so they would go dump it into some of the ravines were full of leaves. And they were 5 feet. They would go down in there and start yelling to get them out of there. But and then we would end up at the same place, and that was good training.
And after the training, then were you deployed overseas? Did you come back to Camp Anza? What happened after the training?
No, we stayed there. I stayed there. I think. Well, the whole thing took me after all the training. I think I must have been there 9 months in that camp at Fort Leonard Wood. Then from there we went to. Not New Orleans, but Louisiana. We had our maneuvers where they pit one division against the other. It's a real training, but they didn't shoot. They didn't give you real bullets. They give you blanks. So we shoot at night. You could see where the bullets were flashing, but no bullets. And we fought there for about three months. After that was over, we went to Fort Breckenridge, Kentucky. And I was there 2 weeks before they just shipped me out of it. They needed replacements. I think they needed. But see, they hadn't invaded. The invasion wasn't in yet. But they needed certain people, I guess, to be ready. So I was a gunner, so they took me out. They took a few of us guys out that were in the division and shipped us out to Fort Meade, Maryland. And we stayed there, we waited there, and then for a couple of weeks, then they sent us down to Patrick Henry, Virginia. We stayed there another day. They probably weren't, they was trying to give us stuff for hot weather, like they were not ODs or wool. They were like khaki pants, you know, and all that stuff, khaki shirt stuff. Then they took those away from us. Then we went back to Fort Meade, Maryland. So I guess they needed us more in Europe, so they sent us to Europe. And that's where we landed in, I think it was Liverpool or Southampton, I forgot.
How did you get to Liverpool or Southampton?
In the ship, we had British ships were hauling, you know, taking us across.
How long did it take?
It took us 15 days to get over there. Because we were zigzagging like kind of the submarines. German submarines, they were knocking the boats out like, putting them down like flies. So we had to avoid them. We had escort ships in front of us.
Was it smooth sailing?
No, it was rough. It was driving the small boats. There was only, but they were not that small because there was 5,000 people in the boat. But they were go down and come up in the waves, you know, and you could see one ship, you could see, and then you disappear, and it was rough. But it took us 15 days to get over there. We saw the White Cliffs of the Dover when we were getting there, and we landed in one of those places. I think it was Liverpool, if I'm not mistaken.
How long were you there?
2 weeks. 2 weeks in Liverpool.
And after that?
We went across the channel. We got there to Liverpool, wherever it was. They kept us away from everything. They didn't, but we could smell the odor of powder and gunpowder, and because they had this tent hospitals on the edge of the channel there, where they brought the people across that were wounded, or you could smell the blood and the smoke. It was a funny smell. And anyway, we went across the channel, and that's why I was a replacement, and they were in a little ways, you know. So they dropped us off, so we had to go over to the line, to the main line, But at that time, nobody was moving. The Germans were not attacking us, or they were not attacking the Germans. So they were waiting to build up more troops, I guess. So they built up all the troops they wanted. Then the big push was going to start. That's when they had the big bombing. And that's when my baptism of fire. They were bombing the German lines, but they kept, the waves, they were supposed to have been, they said there was supposed to have been about 4,000 planes, including the small planes and bombers. And so we could see, you know, waves and waves of planes going over at first and bombing the Germans. Then we could see the bombs coming down too. Pretty soon, they were getting closer and closer and closer. Pretty soon they were hitting us. And they got our division. There was a mistake, you know. They were dropping their bombs too early, I guess. And anyway, we got hit. We got hit. And you know what? Somebody was looking out for me, because when I got to the front, and they put me in this squad, and the sergeant asked me, "What's your job?" So I was trained as a machine gunner. I was qualified as a machine gunner. I said, okay. So he moved the first gunner and second gunner back one space, so I became a first gunner. And before the bombing started, we moved back about, well, there were hedgerows, you know, the hedgerows were like big acres or whatever, lots or whatever. We moved back quite a ways, because it was a very big area where the guy owned the property, I guess. There were property lines, I think they were. So we moved back, and we were just laying in there on the ground against the hedgerow. And our parks was way over there before. the bombs started falling there first, and then we're hitting us. And the bombs started hitting us. And when the first wave was going over, I stopped. No, because I didn't know, it was my first day in combat. And all this thing was flying around, thought maybe the planes were strafing too. And the sergeant said, "No, Nate, get your head down." So I got my head under my tripod. And so they were bombing. It felt like popcorn. And that's how, you know how I've seen the bombs fall from the planes during World War II, how they used to carpet bomb. Well, bomb after bomb after bomb in hundreds of planes. It was sounding just like popcorn, like the earth was, like a big earthquake. And so after that was over for a little while, there comes another wave. So there it goes again. Pretty soon it was all over. And I looked around, and it was, it was real quiet, And I looked around and I saw this guy. I thought it was a cow because there was a lot of dead cows and stuff like that. And I saw this big chunk over there, and I saw it was a piece of a cow, but then I looked closer. It was one of the guys that had been behind me. He was cut in half by the bomb. It was just from here up. What was shining was their dog tags. A bomb hit between him and the guy behind him. And they blew both of them apart. And our sergeant, my sergeant, immediate sergeant was Buck Sergeant. He disappeared. I don't know what happened to him. And the sergeant ahead of him, the platoon sergeant, he was laying back over there because we got up after that. We got up and I looked around. He had both legs blown off and arm blown off. He asked me, my friend, this guy, I didn't even know, asked him for a cigarette. He was still blinking. He wanted a cigarette. And he was in shock. I guess he didn't know what had happened. Anyway, it was terrible. You could see the have tracks and turned over, and it was terrible. Then, and the only thing that I got was a hole in my pants. Because I was in my